Racism Network. Thank you, George. I'm the founder of the Southern Anti-Racism Network, 1998. So we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary next year in Durham, North Carolina, and then we'll celebrate again in Atlanta in 2024. I'm also the organizer of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And there's an item on the agenda where I can get to say a little bit more about our commitment to ending mass incarceration and the death penalty. Thank you, George.
Welcome, Pastor Flakes. We're doing introductions, each of us taking 2 minutes. So why don't you go ahead? Reverend Flakes, are you able to unmute and introduce yourself now? If not, I see that Monica's unmuted. Monica, you want to go ahead?
Yes, good afternoon again, everyone. Monica Spencer. Grew up in Columbus, Georgia. My dad retired here at Fort Benning, and I left as soon as I could. Left here to go to Virginia State, where I majored in social work. Left there, lived in the Washington area for many years before I accepted the call to ministry. I'm a pastor in the AME Church, have served 5 congregations, currently serving at Bethel AME Church in Montezuma, Georgia. Got back to Georgia. I had an opportunity to pastor in Jamaica. And when I finished that assignment, God brought me back home to Columbus. And since I've been here, I've been trying to make a difference in my community. My experience is pretty much nonprofit. I was an administrator at the Virginia Union Seminary, and then the pastorate. That's pretty much what I have done. Currently, I am the liaison for EMI, working along with the faith community to try to address that issue. I serve on the Mayor's Commission for Reentry, and professionally, I serve as the Georgia organizer for Vote Riders. Vote Riders is an organization that helps people get their voter ID. We pay for the cost of driver's license, birth certificates, and the like. And that's the long and short of it.
All right, everyone, good afternoon. Adrian Chester is my name. I serve as pastor of Greater Bellwood Baptist Church and also president of the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance.
Thank you, Pastor Chester. Reverend Flakes?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? I am Johnny Flakes III, pastor of the Fourth Street Missionary Baptist Church. Thank you so very much. Good being here.
So now the review of the EMI 2019 materials. Teresa, do you want to take this?
Well, thank you. I just want to confirm that Pastor Flakes and Pastor Chester have had an opportunity to review the materials. They should have a notebook with lots of resource material, as well as a booklet on expungement and a booklet, the blue booklet, which is the conference program from 2019. I believe I was the only person from Columbus who attended the 2019 conference. And I just wanted to hear from them now that they've had a few weeks to look through the materials, any opinions that they have about it, including how we might use it here in the community. Unfortunately, Reverend Spencer has not picked up her notebook and materials yet, but I do have them here, and I'm hoping that she and I can figure out a time when I can drop them off somewhere or when she can get them, because since she's the liaison to the EMI, she really does need the materials. Uh, Now, if we could hear from Pastors Flakes and Chester George, I don't have any more to offer. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, so yeah, my thought pattern would be, I'm a wealth of material that's in the notebooks, and I assume that we would reproduce these or something of this nature for the conference here in Columbus? Or will we be need to pull material from other places?
Oh, are we going to have a conference in Columbus?
That's not a part of the plan, or just doing the work here in Columbus? I know last meeting, I mentioned the educational piece of, just educating pastors and ministers in some form or fashion of the work of EMI, and how and what that looks like, what this ministry work looks like here in Columbus. So I mean, for me, I think it may necessitate some type of teaching.
Well, I will certainly follow your lead and the lead of Pastor Flakes and Pastor Spencer. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I would certainly support it. But I would see it as a kind of IMA initiative. But maybe Pastor Flakes and Pastor Spencer can say a little bit more about what their thinking is, but I'm all for it because I say, please take the lead because it would be a kind of IMA thing. Pastor Flakes has an opportunity, I think, to speak. He's looking so pensive there. How you doing, Pastor Flakes?
I am doing well, Sister Elamine. How are you doing? Thank you so very much. I will definitely support our president of the IMA and what his suggestions and recommendations are. I think we've got a conference that's coming up in 2023, is that right? In terms of looking at mass incarceration. You're muted.
That's the Ebenezer conference.
That's correct.
It's
And that was
huge. It's going to
yes,
be huge.
yes,
But I agree to get ready for that, which is
right.
kind of our last item on the agenda. What can we do now? And I love this idea of doing some kind of interim conference in Columbus at some point before the fall, if we could manage it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think maybe coming up with what is already being done. I think maybe doing an assessment with our community and what is being done already to address mass incarceration. I think there are some actions being taken. And in terms of NAACP, I think Reverend Jesse and I think Katanga Wright, they had put some things in motion to address the justice system in terms of looking at that. Oh, I think right before we went into pandemic, I know there was a discussion with the judges in terms of what could be done prior to going into the pandemic. So I think it's just basically looking at, so we're not reproducing, we're not duplicating things. But I do think there has to be an educational piece. There's a wealth of material that we have. One thing, Pastor Chester, for allowing me to receive that. And so I've had an opportunity to just peruse it. But a lot of information to digest, a lot of good information from just basically from a sociological perspective, as well as from a justice perspective, as well as it's interesting. I was just talking to a pastor up in Atlanta, and they are doing restorative justice chapters. They've just had one and he lived in North Carolina. They just had one there, and they're looking at, I think they were implementing one in Atlanta, and was talking with him about the possibility of maybe looking at one here in Columbus. But I just think there's a lot of work to be done. Cannot be done by just one organization. I think it has to be a collaboration that it be done. But I definitely think the IMA can basically take the lead on this.
If I
George,
might add,
with us, George.
Teresa's hand is up. I see Monica's unmuted. When my screen is up here, it's hard to see.
Well, if you could take the agenda down, because I think we know what it is. We don't need to. Yeah, if we could hear from our sister Monica, and then I'll speak after her. Thank you.
Early part of last year, we began to meet, the faith community began to meet around EMI. And we had probably 4 or 5 good meetings, and then the attendance just slacked off. But we proposed an agenda and really a format of how to address, how to introduce EMI, how to begin to get the faith community involved, and then how to educate the faith community around certain issues related to incarceration, and certainly mass incarceration. I can share that with you, and you can look at it, glean from it, pull from it what you want if you desire. But I'll share that with, I guess, George, if you could send me your email address. Well, I have it. I'll just send this to everyone.
Well, thank you. It's very important because I feel like we've lost nearly 3 years since the conference in 2019. And I had no idea that there was a liaison here, because I was the only person from Columbus at the conference at Ebenezer. And now that you're the designee, Sister Monica, as the liaison between now and the conference in January of 2023, it is really important that we have a kind of consistency to the communication. There was an event, because the EMI conference from 2019 is really very structurally Atlanta based. And there was a workshop 2 nights ago on prosecutorial reform. And I attended that webinar, and they had DAs from the Atlanta area who are committed to ending mass incarceration. And as Pastor Flakes knows, because he was able to speak at a conference in October, I think, of 2020, and Pastor Flakes spoke at that conference, which also included a very dynamic young DA named Danny Carr. He's a part of this network of prosecutors nationwide who realize that mass incarceration is simply not sustainable. So that's a piece of the puzzle that has to be developed more in Columbus, because in Columbus, it's like lock them up, throw away the key time, compared to what's happening in other places where there's no cash bail, like in Jefferson County, Birmingham. The issue of cash bail in Columbus always seems kind of up in the air. Mark Jones was fiercely in our camp on no cash bail but we know we lost him to his other troubles. So it's unclear what the DA for Muskogee County is going to be doing. So that's an important piece of how we go forward, because what prosecutors do is a major contribution to mass incarceration, county by county. And so we have to look at this strategically for Muskogee County. So I think the IMA teach-in should include that component of prosecutorial conduct. And I won't say misconduct, just how do they conduct themselves when it comes to giving time? Do we see those racial disparities between powder cocaine and crack cocaine and all the other kinds of things? If you're 16 years old, are they going to give you 10 years, which is what they did to Jerome Lawson? 16 years old, and he was given 10 years for some kind of armed robbery or burglary or whatever. And he's come out and made a really good person of himself, has a beautiful wife and two beautiful little girls and a food truck. And so I think lifting up those kinds of success stories is also what should be a part of the narrative that we do in Columbus. Because quite frankly, I've never lived in anywhere where there was so many Black men with felonies. Most of the women I work with in public housing, there are no fathers in the lives of their children because of their felonies. So I'm working with approximately 800 units of people in public housing. And I got organizers on the ground. And we're going to have these meetings next week, which I invited Pastor Chester to speak and deliver the Beyond Vietnam speech on April 4th at Elizabeth Cantey, because it's the 55th anniversary of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Beyond Vietnam speech. And with us being in the middle of a horrific war, it's in Ukraine, but the whole world is somehow being engaged. So George Friday, we should probably set some time limits on me. I do not want to talk more than 3 minutes at a time. So
thanks for letting
George,
me know. Sorry, I
what?
didn't ask you earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt. Fannie Lou
Well,
Hamer Human Rights Conference is the next thing on the agenda.
Well, let's make sure we have exhausted this conversation that's being developed about what the IMA might do, because I think we need to have a clarity and a decision on possible dates, because this city has a lot of ministers, a lot, and they may all not be in the IMA. And so is this going to be inclusive of, for instance, St. Luke or First Baptist or any of the large white congregations? Are they also going to be included? I just want to get a better sense of the picture that Pastor Chester has of the teaching.
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, we as we usually do with anything that the IMA does, we put out an all call and then also tap those resources and relationships of persons who may not be a part of the IMA. And so we have our meeting tomorrow, and I'll be sure to bring this up, and we get back with you probably Monday or Tuesday of next week, if not tomorrow, regarding potential dates for the teaching.
Did you have anything to add, Pastor Flakes?
No, ma'am.
Well, that sounds wonderful. So Pastor Chester, I'm counting on you to speak at Elizabeth Cantey, and I will have the printout of the Beyond Vietnam speech for you to read to the audience, because it's spring break, so it's going to be lots of children in the room with their parents. So be looking to see a nice little crowd to hear your reading of the speech. Thank you, Pastor Chester. We
Okay,
are
yes,
all
ma'am.
set with that because you can come anytime between 10 a.m. and 11 or 11:30. We have a hard stop at noon on Monday. But whenever you arrive, you'll be the eminent person in the room and you will read the speech. And I will probably email it to you later today so you can look it over.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, George.
You inadvertently muted yourself, Teresa. So
What's
now
next?
for Fannie Lou Hamer Human Rights Conference in December.
Oh, well, just quickly, we had set a budget for the conference, which just for the one-day conference, the budget is about $15,000. That includes hotel rooms for all of you, Pastor Flakes, Pastor Chester, and Pastor Spencer, because I consider the three of you the Columbus core team, and Pastor Vaughn is the lead person on the EMI GP team. The conference itself is going to cover 4 areas of work. I'm trying to get members of the Congressional Black Caucus to be on the morning panel. The opening panel is about the treaty prohibiting nuclear weapons. And the US, of course, is not signed on to the treaty, but about 60 countries have signed on to the treaty. The treaty went into force in January of 2021. And all of the mostly global South, and I do mean Black countries, have signed on to the treaty. Jamaica, the Honduras, Haiti, all of those countries have signed on to the treaty. But the countries that are nuclear weapons countries, Israel, the United States, Russia, all of them have been trying to discourage the smaller countries from saying we will never use nuclear weapons. That's what the treaty says. So basically, when the treaty went into force, the UN says that nuclear weapons are illegal, but countries have to sign on to it. So that's kind of the centerpiece of the conference, because the grant that we applied for, the $50,000 grant, is from a foundation that is opposed to nuclear weapons. But they are open to hearing other issues, particularly from communities of color. So it's called the Plowshares Foundation. They're based in Washington, D.C., and they give out $5 million a year internationally to prohibit nuclear weapons. But they decided that the movement was too white, and so they set up a special $1 million fund called Equity Rises. And so they invited Black-led organizations and other organizations that were not in their traditional community to apply. So you can apply for up to $75,000. We applied for $50,000, and it's mainly for this conference, but it's a 1-year grant. So they will let us know in April if we made the first cut. So sometime next month in April, coming up. they'll let us know, and they'll invite us to send a little bit more lengthy proposal than we've already sent. And then they will let us know in June that we have the money and the check will be in the mail. So we can start in July spending the money if we get the money. But the main purpose of the money is to be able to pay the hotel for the one-day conference. And we're planning on doing some things 6 months after the December 10th conference, depending on how much money they actually give us. But they're giving away the whole $1 million, and they're giving it away to 15 to 20 organizations. So our proposal was very strong. And so I'm thinking that we may make the cut. But even if we don't, I think it won't be that hard to raise $15,000 by November. And so I'm working on contingency plans because paying for the conference to be at the hotel in December is really key because I don't want to do a Zoom thing. So we're raising the $15,000 so that when the hotel access our bank account, they'll get their $15,000 because that's how much the hotel costs are. And that includes breakfast for 100 people, lunch for 100 people, and 15 hotel rooms, plus all the meeting rooms. So all of that is included in the 15,000. So we will be this registration fee of $50. So we plan to raise 5,000 of that 15,000 from registration fees, but we'll be asking for other donations from our friends in Columbus to pony up. And so I have no concern about us actually having the money to pay for the one-day conference. So that's my report on the conference. And we can hear from Sister Monica, who's unmuted, George. So I'll let you handle the discussion part, George. Thank you, I'm done.
So any comments? If you want to take 3 minutes, I'll let you know when you're at 1.
I just wanted to know, the conference is going to be here in Columbus?
No, the conference is planned for Atlanta, at the Atlanta Sonesta North Hotel at the airport right there on Virginia Avenue. It used to be called the Crown Plaza.
Okay.
So you know where it is. It's right there. And they have a free airport shuttle, though I expect most of the people to be driving from around the region. I do know that we'll have a strong contingent from North Carolina, and we want to be able to reach out to people in Alabama, as well as South Carolina. So the jurisdiction of the Southern Anti-Racism Network is 4 states, Sister Monica: North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. There will be people who will fly in from other places to the conference because it is part of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And many of those women are part of an internal committee that we have inside of WILF, which is called Advancing Human Rights. And the subcommittee is Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty. And I'm the convener of that subcommittee for the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And so you and I can talk, because I really want you to join our Fannie Lou Hamer branch here in Columbus. It's open to men and women, but we would really be honored if you would join the Fannie Lou Hamer branch of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Thank you, Sister Monica.
Thank
So,
you.
George, I think, I'm not
Any
sure.
other comments? Thoughts about the Fannie Lou Hamer Branch Human Rights Conference? Well, hearing none, then the next agenda item is the EMI conference in Atlanta in January of 2023. Now, Pastor Vaughn isn't here. Reverend Spencer, did you have a proxy for him around this agenda item, or?
I do not.
Any comments or questions that folks have about that agenda item that could be on the recording that Pastor Vaughn can see when he sees the recording?
For me, just personally, I would just say, let me know the dates, places, and pertinent information. So we can be
Well,
registered for it.
mm, well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like it was last year. I mean, in 2019, it was at the Ebenezer Complex, which includes numerous buildings. It will be based there again, and they have a huge sanctuary. Uh, but he was very clear, I think, in our last meeting, Pastor Chester, that it's going to be on the Martin Luther King weekend after. So the Martin Luther King weekend starts on like a Thursday and it culminates on the holiday on that Monday. And I believe Pastor Vaughn said that the conference will take place Tuesday through Thursday or so. So that's the way I recall. So I'm glad I'm saying this on the recording so he can correct me if I'm wrong. But it's going to be a weekday conference. So it really is drawing in pastors and religious leaders for a conference in the middle of the week that most people would not be able to attend. Uh, so that's how I remember his description of when it is. So we're looking to kind of close to the 21st through the 25th or so of January. So that's kind of how I was thinking of it, because the Martin Luther King holiday, I believe, is usually the third Monday.
Mhm.
Over.
All righty. Well, Monica?
I think it would be important to try to do, as Pastor Chester said, to have some type of event leading up to the Atlanta meeting here in Columbus, to further educate the faith community, well, the larger community about EMI and the goals and the purposes. And so maybe October or November have maybe a one-day gathering somewhere here in Columbus that we could try to not only drum up support, but even garner interest around the whole issue of mass incarceration.
Well, Monica, I would love to give you much love because you've segued to our next agenda item, which is what can we do now? That's a question for y'all. It connects with what you just said.
Yeah, for me, I think we have the skeleton of making sure that we are intentional about educating the faith community and the larger community about ending mass incarceration, and then put together a strategic plan that's contextualized for Columbus. I was just now on the EMI website, and they haven't updated anything as it relates to the conference for 2023. And so we'll just be in touch with Pastor Vaughn and go from there.
Thank you. Teresa,
Well, I just want to let all the pastors know that the Southern Anti-Racism Network wants to be a strong partner in the process. The materials that Pastor Flakes and Pastor Chester have, uh, um, we have a special arrangement with Office Depot. So I was able to get uh, the notebook with the 2 extra booklets uh, um, printed for $60. So $60 for each set of materials. And I have your materials here, Sister Monica. It's a gift. And so I do want to give it to you because what I think should be happening now is that the churches should be using the materials. And what I did for George Friday is I copied the blue conference program and the expungement material because that expungement booklet is my impression of what Pastor Vaughn sees as important to try to do, because that does impact recidivism. When you can't get a job because you have a record, it hurts you. So how do we get your records clean? So I really wanted us to kind of concentrate on expungement to go out to as many churches as possible. And having that booklet reproduced would not cost that much. So I can reproduce the expungement booklet. See, Office Depot charges about 75 cents for a color copy. They only charge me 39 cents. So I can get that small booklet recreated. So if you just tell me how many copies you would need for the IMA members, Pastor Chester, that will be a gift from the Southern Anti-Racism Network, because I'm just so pleased to have the opportunity to work with you. So I will get the booklets printed up over the weekend. And when I see you on Monday, I'll give you the booklets. If you need 20 or 25, it will be okay. Just tell me how many you need, because I'll have to get the booklets to Office Depot. They got little rules about doing things while you wait now. So I would probably have to get it to them and pick it up the next day. So I can get it to them tomorrow if you tell me after your meeting how many congregations are interested. I will simply get the expungement booklet printed, and that way that's something we can work on now, because I know that all of the women I'm working with in public housing would like to figure out how they can get expungement things done for the fathers of their children so they can start paying child support. And those women can stop being so hostile to the fathers of their children because they're not paying child support. It drives me crazy every time they open their mouths about it. So that's my offer to you, Pastor Chester. So just give me the number. I can pretty much guarantee I can afford up to 25, because I know it won't cost that much to get that booklet reprinted.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to just ask Pastor Chester, and also Mr. Spencer has been looking at, this teaching in Sister Alameen, you had a template when prior to going to we was in the pandemic, in terms of the October conference that you had with District Attorney Carr out of Birmingham.
Yes.
was excellent, just doing some really innovative and tremendous things. Very, very knowledgeable. And I just want to say, maybe if that template can be used to expedite the planning, I think it would lend itself to the planning process for looking at EMI. The other thing is, there is an attorney here in Columbus who basically has tagged herself as being one of the experts in terms of expungement. So you may want to consider that attorney as being one of the speakers to really deal with this as it relates to our context in Columbus. So just want to put that out. If that can be sent to Pastor Chester in terms of that template, that outline in terms of that that conference that was held in October. I think it was a 219 or 220 when we had it, and it was Zoom. I think it was virtual at the time.
Yeah, it was totally Zoom because we were in the middle of the pandemic.
Correct.
So Walisha Wilson was key to that, because she brought in formerly incarcerated speakers. So a big chunk of it was that. But Reverend Jesse was also one of the speakers. So I can recover the speakers list. But Danny Carr, who has said he's always willing to support us. But since we have our own person in Muskogee, let's use our own person. Oh, so what is the name of the attorney? Oh, what is that beautiful picture? Oh, that's you and your wife. Oh, what's the name of the attorney, Pastor Flakes?
Dunbar, I think is her name, Dunbar.
Jennifer Dunlap.
Dunlap, there you go, Dunlap, thank you.
Dunlap, oh yeah, I see her, she has an office somewhere.
I was in the D category, so thank y'all so very much for putting specificity to it.
That's right. Paul Goring Dunbar. Yeah, she has an office on Winton Road, right across from the museum. Dunlap and Lake.
Yeah. Well, I'll stop by there and give her the expungement booklet at some point. So how many do you think you might need for the IMA?
I'd probably say let's start off with maybe 15.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
I'll have them ready for you on Monday.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Well, George, what else is on the agenda? It seems like we're pulling together a plan. I know we want to say when we want to get back together again, right?
That's the next thing, is your next meeting.
Well, I'll leave that up to Pastor Chester based on the timeline that he might be creating for the teaching.
Yes, ma'am. So if I can just get that to you tomorrow, once we formulate a planning team within the alliance, and then we'll be sure to communicate that to this group, so all voices are included.
That sounds good, because since Pastor Vaughn had a conflict, we'll definitely want to put out some dates so that he could be sure to be here, so he can talk a little bit more about EMI in 2023. So that sounds perfect. I love the 1 hour meeting, and we're under time, so that works great for me. Is there anything else?
Answer that than I am. And then the last question, the budget.
Hearing nothing.
Before we depart, Sister Elamine, would it be possible for vote writers to be at your gathering on Monday? Again, vote writers helps people get their voter IDs. There's no charge to the voter, but I would imagine there are many people who need a driver's license or state ID, social security card, and or birth certificate.
Well, I would appreciate it if you would call me because we have meetings on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. And it's going to be lots of folks. And we work with the New Georgia Project for some meetings in February. And they came and did address changes and help people. And they're trying to get their office open in Columbus, but it hasn't happened yet. So we'd love to partner with your group because we hope that the NAACP will also help registering people to vote, because we're talking about 800 units with at least one adult in the home. So that's a lot of people who have traditionally not voted in Columbus. Because I look at the precinct totals from First African and other places where people are supposed to be voting, and the Black turnout is extremely low. And we got to work real hard this year to increase voter turnout because of the voter suppression measures that are attacking the right to vote. So please give me a call, Sister Monica, please.
Okay, I will.
Anything
George,
else at all? You think we're ready, Teresa?
Yeah, I think we're all set. I'm
Okay.
just looking to hear from Sister Monica so I can get her notebook and we can figure out what she can help us with next week.
Pastor Spencer, you have homework.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to multitask as someone out of Nashville called me on something, but what homework do I have again?
No,
Well,
it's for Pastor
let's
Spencer.
wait. Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Pastor Flakes, I have a call in to Georgia, and she was going to check with you about the use of the church on April 30th for a Mother's Day essay contest, which will
Yes, ma'am. I received that on yesterday. She was getting back with you. We have what we call COP classes for our teachers, and that goes from 8:30 to 4 or 5 on that particular Saturday. So I looked at that yesterday, and I was going to give you a call today, but that our COP classes are on that particular day. I would love to do it. I looked at it, but that's an all-day teaching for teachers who are getting certified. It's a certification classes and courses.
Okay, well, Pastor Chester, I'll get back with you so we can figure out a possible alternative location. It needs to be a place that has a dining room that could accommodate possibly about 100 or 150 people, which will include a whole bunch of children. So if there could be a side room for childcare, because we'll be paying for childcare for some of the smaller children who are not in the contest, because the contest is from age 7 to age 12. And so the younger children will need childcare. So if we could do it at Greater Billwood on that April 30th, it would be like a noon to 4 thing. So if you could get back with me on that, because we'll be paying for shuttle service to get people from public housing to the church. Most people don't have cars. So we're trying to find a place that was easily accessible to the 4 major public housing: Warren Williams, Canty, Farley, and Wilson. Those will be the communities involved. And we thought doing it at 4th Street would be central. And so, but it's just not a good date. Thanks for letting me know, Pastor Flakes.
Yes, ma'am. We would have loved to accommodate you, but that was planned last year.
Well, we're gonna do a Father's Day essay. So we'll probably pick, it'll be in early June, before the 15th of June. We'll have to do it early in June because we got a bus trip to DC in middle June. So I'll check with Georgia on that as soon as we decide.
Yes, ma'am. And let me just go ahead and tell, if I may, on April 16th,
Yes.
On April 16th, there is a community of hope that we're going to sponsor, where we actually have a partnership with an organization up in Atlanta called Caring for Others. And the CEO is from Ghana. Her name is Miss Ursuline Shockley. And we're going to open up, we're going to close off 5th Street, and we're going to have pretty much clothing that the community can come. And the reason I'm mentioning this is that, you know, those housing, if the kids, if the parents or whoever can come, and it will be like a thrift store on the streets, and as well as food. And so they can come. And so we'll give away whatever we have. We're looking at new clothes that Ms. Shockley provides to us. And so whatever they want to pick out, it's going to be pretty much a community event. So just want to share that. We will get a flyer out to you so you can get it out to them.
That would be great, because we would like to put the flyers out next week during spring break.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if you could email me the flyer, I'll arrange to get it printed out.
Georgia will get it to you.
Oh, thanks a million. I will be down April 16th. Thank
God
you.
bless you. You're welcome. Thank you for what you do.
Okay.
All right.
Good
Bye.
afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Bye.